What is going on? Raze is here, and today I'm going to be doing the top 20 best SpongeBob SquarePants episodes. And this list is going to have a lot of underrated episodes, so yeah, I'm going to be doing the top 20 today, my top 20 favorites, so let's get started. Number 20 is New Leaf. I guarantee you no one expected this to be on the list at all. Well, to be honest, this episode is severely underrated in my eyes. To me, it's such a great episode. And here's why. 1, it is a funny episode. The montage segments are actually funny. Plankton's breakdown, while emotional, was somewhat funny, and the ending was kind of funny too. But the main reason why I love this episode is the chemistry and bond between Krabs and Plankton. It's a very emotional episode, and I love it. I feel like that this is Have You Seen the Snail done right, and to be honest, I don't really like Have You Seen the Snail that much, but that's besides the point. This episode is very emotional, and it's very nice, and I love this episode. It's one of the most underrated, if not the most underrated of the whole show. Number 19 is Pineapple Invasion. This number 19 needs to be sold, but I decided to replace it with Pineapple Invasion after watching this episode and Sold back to back. So here's why this episode is number 19. If I'm being honest, this is one of the funniest post-movie episodes and one of the funniest episodes from Season 9. This episode, I would say, could go toe-to-toe with episodes like Krusty Towers and other episodes like the Krusty Krab training video with Plankton stuff. It's a really, really funny episode, and I feel like it could go toe-to-toe with some of the best pre-movie episodes. It's a really funny episode, it's a really creative episode, and it's a really fun episode, and I'm really surprised that this was done in Season 9 and not like Season 2. It's such an amazing episode. Number 18 is Krusty Towers. So, this episode is classic. That's really all I can say. It's classic. The plot is great, the jokes are great, and it feels like one of the better episodes that could be placed in Season 3. And this episode was originally going to be in Season 3, so that's a great thing. And yeah, this episode is just classic. It's really funny. And yeah, I love it. And also, I love how Squidward finally gets revenge on Krabs. And there's also a really funny kidnapping dark joke here either. It's really subtle, but it's really funny. It's a really great episode overall. Number 17 is a Krusty Krab training video. Yep, it's not in my top 10, and that's because I find this episode overrated a little bit. But that's besides the point. This episode, even if it's overrated to me, it's still a really good one. There are a lot of classic jokes like the acronym POOP, Hoopla, Maximum Overdrive. There are a lot of really classic jokes in this episode. And I love it. The reason why this isn't higher is because I feel like that it should have more of a plot, I guess, but that's besides the point. It's a really funny episode and one of the best of Season 3. Number 16 is Roller Cowards. So, this is my favorite Season 5 episode, and it's one of my favorite episodes ever. And for good reason. So first off, this episode is really funny. The ice cream scene and Patrick's exchange with the mirror are both really funny. And I really love their fear. It's kind of funny, and the dream was also funny too. And another reason why I love this episode is because of how relatable it is. So, the writers want SpongeBob and Patrick to be portrayed like kids. Fine, give them a situation that anybody can relate to. Like getting courage to go on a big roller coaster. And I really love how they showed their fear. It's just really relatable, the plot is amazing. And it's a really funny episode, and it's one of my favorites of all time, and one of my favorites from Season 5. Yup, would you look at that, a season 6 episode made it on the list. And this is my third favorite episode that came after the first movie. Maybe the third, maybe the fourth favorite, I'm not sure, but again, this is my favorite episode from season 6, and here's why. The first thing is that it's a really funny episode. Patrick constantly falling from like different things and Mr. Krabs' greed are both portrayed well, and they're really funny. And I really love Patrick's, him working at the Krusty Krab, like when someone asking where the Krusty Krab was, and he just points to the chum bucket. That's really funny. And he literally twirling away customers with the sign was also really funny. It's just a funny episode. And another reason why I love this episode is because of Patrick and how they handle Patrick. So Patrick, he wants a job at the Krusty Krab. You know why? It's because he can be like Spongebob. That's a lot like Big Pink Loser, but I think this handles that aspect a lot better. It's just really amazing to see, and I absolutely adore it. And in the meantime, Patrick keeps getting hurt because of Mr. Krabs, and SpongeBob keeps looking out for Patrick. And Patrick still wants to do it because he wants to keep the hat, because he wants to be like SpongeBob. It's just really admirable, and this is one of my favorite post-movie SpongeBob episodes, and it's one of my favorite episodes ever. Yep, number 14 is my second favorite season 4 episode. And this episode is my second favorite SpongeBob special, which is Dunces and Dragons. Everybody knows why this is the Band Geeks of specials. Yeah, I'll tell you why. 1, it's placed in medieval times. 2, it's very entertaining and really engaging. 3, all the characters that are in the episode are really cool, especially like medieval Squidward, which I just love. 4, there's an amazing song, and there's also amazing jokes. My favorite one of those being like the bowling alley, where like, not the bowling alley. It's just all really funny. And the 5th reason why I love it is like the epic, battle in the end. Literally, the one word I can describe this special is epic. It's an epic episode, and that's really all I can describe it. It's a really good, great episode, and everybody knows why it's one of the best SpongeBob episodes. Number 13 is Dying for Pie. This episode, when I was younger, it was one of my favorite episodes. And it still is one of my favorite episodes to this day. So the first reason why I love this episode is because of the plot. Because Squidward, he wants to be nice to SpongeBob because SpongeBob was nice to him. Squidward goes and buys a pie, and apparently that pie is a bomb. And Squidward gives the pie to SpongeBob, and SpongeBob apparently eats it. And Squidward thinks that, and because SpongeBob ate it, Squidward wants to make the last day for SpongeBob of his life perfect. And the whole episode is just Squidward bonding with SpongeBob and some beautiful scenes. It's all done perfectly, and it's just really nice. And yeah, that's really all I can describe this episode. It's nice, and I love it. Squidward in this episode is amazing, and it's also a really funny episode. As a really funny joke about the bombs, the pies being bombs. It's all really funny, and it's all really satisfying, and this is just beautiful. Wow, I'm gonna get hate for this, but Chocolate with Nuts, this is not in the top 10. This is not in the top 10, because, to be honest, I think this episode is mildly overrated, I guess. Well, can't be that overrated because it's number 12 on the best list. Well, I'm going to explain why this is one of the bestest episodes of SpongeBob. One of my favorites. So, it's really funny. That's really all I can say with this episode. It's all really, really funny. I really love that guy who keeps scamming SpongeBob and Patrick. Patrick's one-liners are priceless. Their tactics trying to sell candy bars were all funny too. It's one of the funny SpongeBob episodes, and you know what? This isn't my favorite of season 3. You're gonna have to wait to see what my favorite is. But this episode is freaking golden. It's one of the funniest, and the reason why it's number 12 and not the top 10 is because I feel like they could have done a little more with the plot. I mean, the plot is still good, but they could have done a little more with it. But as it stands, it's one of the funniest episodes of the whole show and one of the greatest. Number 11 is Chocolate with Nuts' sister episode, Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 5. And this is my favorite Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy episode, and it's been my favorite for a really long time. So here's why this is my favorite. Well, first off, this is the definition of a classic episode. And that's besides the point. So here's why I love this episode. The plot is really nice and really touching. Because Barnacle Boy, or I'm going to say Barnacle Man, because he wants respect by Mermaid Man after he gets made fun of. He decides to go and leave to the dark side because he thinks that he'll get respect there. And because he leaves, Mermaid Man gets SpongeBob, Patrick, Sandy, and Squidward to go help save the world. And then once they go out and save the world, a ton of shenanigans ensue. And, you know, the whole Justice League, like, they all beat themselves up pretty much. It's all really, really, really funny. And the ending of this episode is super sweet. I love the ending so much. So, yeah, this episode is a really funny one. It's classic. It has a great plot. It has great jokes, like I said. And it has an amazing ending. What more could you possibly want with a SpongeBob episode? And to only think that this is number 11. Now to get into the stuff I can really sink my teeth into. Number 10 is my favorite post-movie episode. Or not post-movie, post-sequel episode. And this episode is Feral Friends. So here is why I absolutely adore this episode. The main reason is the plot. The plot is really, really, really engaging, and I love it. It's really interesting to see SpongeBob and his friends go into their feral beings, and it's just really nice. It's really weird, and it's really entertaining, and I love that. And another thing that I love is that this episode is really funny. Patchy, well, I mean, I know I needed to be here, but his segments were pretty funny. And that's really all I can describe with the episode. There are a lot of, funny jokes. Like, I don't know why, but I found SpongeBob and everybody being naked in the end. That was funny, I guess. Yeah, I don't know why. And, yeah. And going back to the plot, I love the plot because, if I'm being honest, I actually learned something from this episode. You can actually learn a lot about marine biology in this episode. It's really interesting, and I love this episode. It's one of my favorites, and it's my favorite season 10 episode and my favorite episode after the second movie. Number 9 is Wishing You Well. So the one word I would use to describe this episode is beautiful. This whole episode is really beautiful, and it's one of the most underrated episodes of the whole show. It's also a really funny episode. There are a lot of really good gags in this episode, like the claustrophobic one, for example. And another reason why this is in the top 10 is because the moral is just really good. The moral is to keep believing, and to be honest, it gives a sense of hope in the world, and I love it. This is my favorite episode from post-movie SpongeBob, and my favorite from Season 4. I'm gonna make this quick. Everybody knows why this is on here. So number 8 is Frankendoodle. This episode is hilarious. Doodle Bob is hilarious. There are so many fourth wall jokes. Frenchie's amazing. There are so many good gags. I love this episode. And that artist is amazing. Yep, let's move on. This is my favorite special. Christmas 2 is number 7. So here's why this is my favorite special. Well, I feel like that they captured the Christmas vibe perfectly. It's really nice watching it, and they captured the whole spirit of Christmas perfectly. SpongeBob is this optimistic person who wants to bring Christmas to Bikini Bottom because that's what he likes. And it's all just beautifully done. And then we get to the second half where apparently everybody turns on SpongeBob because they think he's a phony. And Squidward, he goes and rubs it in. And because SpongeBob gives, Squidward the best gift that he's ever gotten, and that he realized that SpongeBob actually cares for him, Squidward actually feels bad and wants to make it up to SpongeBob and the whole town. So Squidward, he goes around and he gives everything, like literally everything he has, to the whole town. And it's all really beautiful to see because Squidward, he's a really good guy in this episode, and it's amazing. It's nice to see him do good to the community, and it's really beautiful, and that's how I can describe this episode. It's beautiful, and that's why it's number 7. Number 6 is pizza delivery. Well, literally everybody knows why this is on here. It's a relationship between SpongeBob and Squidward. It's just really amazing. And the jokes in this episode are really funny too. Like the Pioneer joke, the Rock joke, there are a lot of good ones. And the Krusty Krab pizza quote-unquote song was amazing. And Squidward, badass Squidward in the end was just freaking great. And I love it. So, yeah, let's move on. Number 5 is Idiot Box. Like number 9, this episode gives a really good moral. The moral is to be imaginative, or I don't know if that's a word, but if it is, yeah. It's, have imagination. Like how SpongeBob says. So this episode is a classic episode, and here's why. It's a classic setup. SpongeBob and Patrick, they have fun, and Squidward wants to get in because he thinks something is going on. It's just really nice, and it's a really funny episode too. This is one of those episodes where I don't really have a lot to say about it, and it's just a really good episode. And this is one of my favorite episodes, and it's one where I really don't have a lot to say about it. It's just really good. Number 4 is Squidville. So, when I was younger, this was my favorite episode of the whole show. While it's not my favorite anymore, I still consider it to be one of the best. Here's why. This episode is really creative. Like, really creative. Squidward successfully moves this time, and he realizes that his life in the new town is all pointless. Well, not pointless. It's repetitive, and he realizes that repetition, that actually gets old. And because of the boredom in his life and the repetition, he realizes that he needs some light in his life, like SpongeBob and Patrick. And that is why he moves back, because he realizes that he needs the light of SpongeBob and Patrick. That he needs enjoyment in his life. He needs creativity in his life. I feel like this episode is perfect surrounding Squidward's character, especially the ending. And that's not all. SpongeBob and Patrick, they all make really, really good jokes. Patrick going around saying, "Are you Squidward?" is all really funny. It's really funny. And the plot is really creative, and the ending is just freaking amazing. I love it. Well, would you look at that? Band Geeks is not number 1, it is number 3. But I'm gonna discuss why I absolutely adore this episode. So the first thing is, it introduces Squilliam. Squilliam plays a perfect rival for Squidward, and yeah. The second thing is because of, how funny the episode is, The dying animal on the premises gag with Squidward's clarinet was priceless. All of the band humor gags were golden. Yeah, and this has this great line by Patrick. Is mayonnaise an instrument? Yep, it has that line. It's all really funny. And for the ending, the song Sweet Victory, it's actually stuck in my head right now. It always gets stuck in my head. And that song is, even if it's a part of Spongebob, it's one of my favorite songs ever. I love that song, and it's amazing that it got played in this episode. It's still a shame that it didn't get played at the Super Bowl, because if it did, it would have been an awesome tribute to Hillenburg. So yeah, I absolutely adore this episode. And this episode gets sweet, sweet, sweet victory. Yeah. Sorry, my singing kind of sucks. Number 2 is not Band Geeks, and number 2 is my favorite episode from Season 1. And this episode is SB129. You know how I ranted on Back to the Past in my last SpongeBob related video? This episode is that episode done right. You want a time travel episode? Watch SB129, because it handles the time travel perfectly. So here is why I absolutely adore this episode. This is, by far, one of the most funniest episodes of the whole show. It is so funny. So funny. Prehistoric SpongeBob and Patrick are freaking amazing. It's all really, really funny. And it has the everything is Chrome in the future gag, which I find really funny. And Squidward going around and being like, future, future. It's all really funny. And also the plot, it's creative. Squidward goes back in time and he goes forward in time. It's just really creative and it's really unique. And also, even though if this is in a season 1 or whatever, the animation is just gorgeous. It's stunning. I love it. It's one of the best episodes. And you can tell because it's number 2 on the top 20. So yeah. Number 1 is Can You Spare a Dime? I've seen people place this in the top 10 best SpongeBob episodes. But no one really put this as their favorite episode. And I honestly don't know why. Because this episode is one of the... I was going to say one of the best. No, this is the best SpongeBob episode. It is the best episode. So here's why this is the best episode. So first off, I consider this to be the funniest episode of the whole show. Yes, it's even funnier than Chocolate with Nuts. It has so many good gags. Mr. Krabs being like, you stole it, you stole it, you stole it, was all really funny. Squidward's reaction to that and him quitting was amazing. The dime being like really big in the ending was really funny. SpongeBob literally throwing Squidward out of the house was funny. Squidward being a brat was actually really, really funny. And yeah, it's just a really funny episode. And Squidward apparently eating his paintings was funny. And the whole transition from him saying that the town's going to be eating from the palm of his hands to him being homeless is probably my favorite gag in the whole show. It's such a funny gag. I love it. And let's go to the next thing. SpongeBob's character. SpongeBob in this episode is not the most optimistic that he's been. And it shows that, he can be a pushover and that he can be easily taken advantage of. This is one of the few times in the whole show where SpongeBob is actually, mad. And his madness is actually justified. And it's really nice saying that, he's not optimistic all the time. And that he actually has personality. I feel like this episode handles SpongeBob's character the best than any other episode in the whole show. With that said, this is the best episode, and these are the top 20 best episodes in my opinion. What are your top 20? I would like to know, and I will see you guys in the next video. And please make sure to follow my new account where I will be posting SpongeBob clips. It's at SpongeBob Legend _ and it's on Instagram, so go give me a follow there.